All right. Hello, everybody. Happy Sunday and welcome to Sunday Funday with the Fyffe Club and friends. Obviously, me and Rachel and Marc Andreyko and our special guest, Samm Levine.
Well, hello. Oh, what an honor it is to be here amongst the Fyffe Club. The best of all the clubs, let's be honest.
It is the best of all the clubs and, possibly the best faction in the entire Schmoedown that ever existed. Obviously, I'm biased.
I'm not, and I have no argument.
Oh, well, thank you, Sam. I appreciate that. But yes, particularly biased because it is my namesake. Hello, everybody in the chat. Is everything sounding good to you? No argument. Okay, so you obviously can hear us, so that's good.
That's a good sign.
That's a good sign. That's a good sign. Sam, you were not on with us last week, so I wanted to check in with you and see what your quarantine routine has been like.
I'm going to be honest with you. Very little has changed for me.
That's fair.
Yeah. I don't leave the house much because there's people out there. Yeah. And, I get mobbed everywhere I go, Emma.
That's true. You're a very famous actor.
Oh no! I just meant that I put on cologne, and people they can't resist.
Oh, I got you.
Yeah, it's that CK1. No,
like Pepe Le Pew with the smell.
That's exactly right, Mark. Yes. No, for me, I've just been doing projects around the house. That's my big thing. While we're stuck in here, I might as well make this place get to all of the things that I've been putting off.
Yeah. I mean, this is definitely the time to do it. Yeah, I've been, just finding things to do.
Mm-hmm. Like I finally finished putting up all my wallpaper.
Hey, that's great.
Yeah.
I love that.
I think I said this last week, but my cupboards look like Patrick Bergen from Sleeping with the Enemy has been here. Everything's organized, all the labels are facing out, they're uniform distance from the edge.
Wow.
I am going insane. But on the other side, my dog has never been happier. I think every pet in the world is like, people are home all the time.
Oh, yeah.
Like pandemics.
How's Mithril doing, Rachel?
Not too bad. I'm sort of a little bit back and forth between my place because my work at home setup is in my apartment,
right.
But then I spend most nights here. We live right down the street from each other, so I'm not breaking rules. And when I'm there, she's all the pictures you see about cats when people are working at home, she's right on the keyboard, right in my face, like, what are you doing? What are you doing? What are you doing? And it's like, well, I'm trying to work. But I think she's one of the happier cats out there that I'm home. I know some other cats, based on all the memes, are like, what are you people doing in my apartment? So.
Yeah, I think for me, because I am a freelancer largely, and I am at home a lot, my cats are used to us being around, but they're a little extra happy right now to have the attention. I'm sorry, I'm getting distracted by one of my cats in the corner who's trying to get my attention to feed him dinner, but he can wait. He'll be fine.
Your cat doesn't understand your streaming schedule yet?
He doesn't quite understand my streaming schedule. No, actually, so I have two cats, Light and Elle. Light is my friendly cat, and Elle is a very sweet boy. He just hates strangers. And for whatever reason, it's like he can sense that there are strangers watching him on the other side of the computer screen, because I tried to scoop him up in my arms and bring him on my stream the other day when he was pretty close by, and he was not having it. Mm-hmm. So
he's like, Sam, there's
way.
People out there.
That's right.
Yeah, exactly.
He hates the camera. I can be in the other room getting my camera ready, and he'll run away. It's insane.
Oh my gosh.
Are you sure it's not just because he's union?
Yeah.
He doesn't want to get in trouble?
Yeah, exactly. Doesn't want Sam coming after him.
He's financial poor, Sam.
Oh, wow. FICOR. I don't want to mess with that guy.
Nah, definitely not.
Those are industry terms, right?
There you go.
Yes, that's your little insider right there. All right, let me look at this chat here. Billy Pollahan says, hello, I just wanted to tell y'all that I hope you're safe and that you rock. Actually, it says ya rock. Thank you, Billy. Really appreciate that.
Yeah, thank you, sir.
Billy, devoted fan of the Schmoedown. Met him in Chicago. It was great. Let's see. Christopher Woodburn says you were great on Backstage, Rachel.
Well, thank you. I
So,
enjoyed calling in.
yeah.
So much easier to do it now. You don't actually have to make that long drive to Christian's garage.
I know, yeah.
I mean,
You
that's,
just,
So
I think I'm doing it this week too.
oh, sweet.
nice. Yeah. Well, there's a lot to talk about this week. I don't know if anybody else has tracked the latest team match and all the tweeting that's happening online.
Oh,
So everybody's
No.
anticipating an explosive Backstage full of opinions.
my goodness.
Nothing new there.
Yeah, I obviously there's also been a little back and forth as far as what is happening with the Schmoedown now that we're all like living in this social distancing world. I know originally there was going to be an Inner Geekdom tournament, but now it's just going to be exhibition matches so we can keep creating content for Patreon.
I will do everyone I can and just get us all a dry erase board. That'll be fun.
Yeah, exactly,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah, I think they're trying to balance out like whether or not to have league matches that way, but it raises a lot of questions with people at home and how do you do a wheel and how does it really count to records and belt shots and things like that.
It doesn't count for records. It shouldn't. And then, we can do that.
And that's why these would all be exhibition, fun, you know, silly, but still content. It's still things that people can watch, but
Totally.
it doesn't really matter for the season at large, which people are already putting, you know, a lot into. So
Well, then-
I feel bad. The IG tournament would have been fun, and I know a lot of people were looking forward to it.
I was kind of
hoping,
excited
you know,
about it too.
Yeah, you know, I loved all the IG stuff, but hopefully there'll still be a tournament. You know, it all just depends on whenever, you know, the stay at home is lifted and we can get back to production and things like that. But I'm really impressed that they're really trying to find ways to make sure that Schmoedown's still putting out stuff for the fans to watch.
Yeah, and I do want to say thank you to everyone who is a Schmoedown patron, all of whom have been very cool and understanding for the most part about everything that's been going on in terms of us having to cut back on how much content we were putting out there and not necessarily being able to deliver on all of the things that we're supposed to deliver on. And anybody that has had to step away from the Patreon, totally respect that. But there have been just as many people who have said, you know, I can afford to support the show, and so I'm going to keep doing that, which is really, really nice to see.
I will say, I don't know how much you guys get out at all, but when I go to the grocery store, when I go to, you know, wherever, it seems like people are being pretty nice for the most part. It's kind of like, it's inspiring, but it's kind of annoying. I'm like, why do we have to have shitty things happen before we're nice to each other? I mean, I'm not complaining because everyone's been, for the most part, been great, but, you know, we should always thank the public service people. We should always hold doors for people. Hopefully this ushers in the return of just common courtesy and respect, because it's been really lovely seeing people at the grocery store by my house standing 6 feet apart, letting elderly people go before them, not, you know. So it warms my heart that we have good in it within us. I just hope we can keep it after this is all gone.
Yeah.
I love your optimism.
Yeah. Sam's like, not
This
a
is
chance.
well. This is
not being pessimist. It's being
no,
hopeful.
not at all. And
No, you are.
and you're hit the nail on the head. This is bringing out the best in people, and it is also bringing out the worst in people.
It's very
But
true.
those people that it's bringing out the worst in were already the worst people, so they're staying on
There's
brand.
nothing new there.
I agree.
Yeah, I don't disagree with that statement at all, but it is nice to see the good people really shining. I also think that, like, for me, I have learned a lot about remote broadcasting in a very short amount of time because of this. And I don't know, you know, it's a skill I was always inclined towards, but I really learned so much because I was kind of forced to. So there you go.
So it's a win.
There's a slight positive.
I saw a question over on the side about McQueenie retiring, and he retired for professional reasons. He's got stuff, he just doesn't have the time, so there's no story-based stuff there or any drama.
Yeah.
It was something I think we're bummed about, but we're happy for him.
Oh yeah, we love Drew.
So it's been a project he's been working on for a long time. So I hope this works out for him because he's a lovely person. So
yeah.
At the end of the day, eventually, Christian wants the Schmoedown to be a job for people, but it's still more of a hobby, and everybody has to, put their own careers and lives and families first, and then they play in the Schmoedown as much as they can. And some people that's showing up on the day and playing, some people that's studying a lot, sometimes that's people who throw everything they've got into it because they're able to for whatever reason in their lives. And and job opportunities and other opportunities come up for people, and right now McWeeney is one of those people, and we're all really excited for him for this opportunity that he has, and we really hope that it goes well and everything. He'll be sorely missed because he's just he's the godfather of the Schmoedown for a reason. But yeah, this stuff happens.
Mm-hmm. And I think Drew is somebody, it was really fun to watch him kind of get into the Schmoedown, because obviously his movie knowledge is so vast and broad and thorough. But to see him kind of have fun with some of the storyline stuff was really fun.
Yeah. He really got into it. All you have to do is watch the match that Samm and McWeeney won when they won the belts. It is like his reaction, he punches the table and he's so excited. And I'm like, it's so cool to see somebody get so genuinely excited about those moments.
Christopher Woodburn really wants you to know, Samm, that he loves your Batman.
Thank you. These are my bat antlers, basically.
Yeah, they are like bat antlers. It's like a nice little headdress that you've got on there.
Actually, that looks. Cher had a headdress like that in the 70s.
I believe that.
Probably true.
This is like it's my Thor Ragnarok.
Oh actually. Yeah, I see that. Color scheme.
I'm changing DC to Marvel, but still it works.
Yeah.
Just play a little Led Zeppelin and we're good.
Yeah, definitely. Manny Gonzalez just says, hello, thanks for doing this. Hope y'all are well, ? I think I'm doing as well as I can be.
Yeah. Given all the stories and things that I know, there are people in a much worse situation, and my heart goes out to them. And everybody's dealing with this differently because everybody's got different parts of it that they're dealing with. People who have their kids at home because the schools are closed and they're also trying to work from home. Like, my sister's my hero right now, trying to juggle a 4-year-old and her job while her husband is still going out for his job because his is one of the necessary ones. Like it's a lot on her plate, and it's a very different set of anxieties than the kind of stuff that, I'm going through. So everybody's got their situations and their stories and everything, and everybody's dealing the best they can.
Yeah. I think one of the things that, my roommate and I were talking about was, I guess she watched some video with a therapist explaining why you might be having a hard time right now. It's because normally part of our sort of like coping mechanisms is to go out and connect with others and like see your problems reflected back at you by other people with whom you're sharing experiences. And it's really hard to do that right now.
Last night, I watched this thing online. It was this guy that used to work with Elizabeth Kubler-Ross, who was the woman that came up with the stages of death and dying. And he said, one of the things we need to tell people is we're all grieving, because when this is done, normal is not going to be what normal was before this.
Yeah.
And it's like after, there are kids now that don't remember not having to take your shoes off at the airport.
Right.
So whatever the new normal is after this, there's a whole lot of stuff handshakes might be gone.
Yeah.
Hugging friends might be gone for a while. A lot of us are gonna have a lot of PTSD when we're allowed to be in public places again. Mm-hmm. And we need to grieve. We need to acknowledge that what we're feeling is actual grief, and we're allowed to, and that's part of a process. And it's not something to, I think, isolate. It's something to share, because knowing that everyone else is going through something like this to a different level, you should unite us. It shouldn't isolate us.
Yeah.
I sound like a Jan Levan Zant or something.
No, it's true.
Well,
My life with Marc Andreyko.
Rachel and I've been teaching her what I think the new handshake will be.
Oh, I can't wait.
From the movie Demolition Man.
Oh.
No, it's not a dirty joke. Rach, you want to give it a shot?
Okay.
Here we go.
All right, let's see this.
No, I need to actually be able looking at you while you're doing this.
Oh, here
Ready?
we go.
Get your hand up. Get your hand up. There you go.
Yes.
Yeah.
Very good.
You guys
Very
remember
good.
that from Demolition Man?
I do. Yeah.
Mhm.
Yeah, I think that was technically supposed to be the new high five, but it was all forms of touching were banned
It's true.
in that world. Yeah.
Well, if Taco Bell is the only fast food restaurant to survive, then we'll know we are living
Then we'll
in Demolition
know.
Man times.
Yep.
Yes.
And
Let's
Wesley
see.
Snipes will still be overacting in the future.
Yes. Let's see. Christopher Woodburn in the chat asks, question for Sam. How much fun did you have with your character in Not Another Teen Movie?
Oh, that was super fun. That was the first feature film that I was in where I was on camera. And that was ridiculous fun because it was a very silly movie.
I love that film has aged beautifully. And for
Thank
the
you.
fans out there, Shout Factory Sony put out a special edition video or Blu-ray of it that has got so many great extras. Plus, Chris Evans covered in whipped cream.
I mean,
I remember watching Chris Evans just off the set doing what must have been 100 sit-ups and push-ups right before they rolled on action so that he would be as absolutely jacked as he could be. And it paid off.
definitely.
Yeah, that man was
Jack
cut.
is a good word.
Yep.
Yeah.
And he found a whole other regime later on to do Captain America. Haha.
Ha, ha, ha,
Ha
ha,
ha
ha.
ha.
So when we were shooting that movie, this would have been February, March, April 2001 was when we shot that movie.
Wow.
So back in those days, everyone was on a real similar plane in terms of our like status as actors. And so we used to hang out as a group. And I even had an Oscar viewing party at my home that Chris Evans was there, Kyler Lee was there. And yeah, it was not a big deal. It wasn't weird. Like, oh, Chris Evans is here. It was like, yeah, Chris is here. It's not Captain America yet, guys. It's not weird.
Yeah.
And
He wasn't even
And
the Human Torch yet, was he?
no, he
Nope.
wasn't even the Human
Nope.
Torch. All he was our
Yeah.
buddy Chris that we were working on this movie with. That was
That's
it.
amazing.
And so I, being the 19-year-old I was, I stocked up on all the important party foods, including Twinkies.
Mhm.
And yeah, Rachel knows where this is going. So I had always heard that
Just
Twinkies
looking
never
down.
see the inside of an oven. As in, there's
Okay.
no actual real
involved in making
bread.
Twinkies.
Right? There's
okay.
there's no leavened bread in a Twinkie. It's totally, made in some sort of weird scientific manner. So at one point, I remember Chris had a Twinkie. He was like, I don't want another one. I just want like a half of one. Do you want to split it? So I said, sure. So he sliced a Twinkie down the middle. And then he took half of it. And then I just let the other half sit on a plate, figuring I'd get to it later. And then the party ended and I never ate the Twinkie. And I was like, maybe I'll use this as a good experiment. And so I just left the Twinkie sitting on that paper plate for days, then weeks, then months. I mean, I put it up on like top of the fridge. And every now and then I would go and check on it to see if there's mold, if there's discoloration. It stayed exactly the way it was for over a year. I mean,
Oh my
the
god.
cream didn't
I
change
can't eat
consistency
Twinkies now.
at all. And I want you to know that experiment continues to this day.
You
I've
still
seen
have that
it.
Twinkie?
I
I've
still
seen it.
have that Twinkie.
Oh my god.
And as it turns out, what began as a totally weird experiment to gauge how edible Twinkies are has now turned into who wants the other half of Captain America's Twinkie.
Sam, you could probably make a killing on that if you tried to sell it.
I
And
probably
he
could
cut it
sell it.
lengthwise?
as
That's
much.
amazing.
He cut it lengthwise.
No, right down the middle, like you're cutting a hot dog in half to give to two people.
Oh, okay. That's so weird.
That is really funny.
I don't know.
Wow. I
There you
mean,
go.
what a claim to fame. You still are the owner of the other half of
Twinkie.
Captain America's Twinkie.
Indeed. You know my favorite thing about Chris Evans, other than him being a really good actor and an amazing humanitarian, blah, blah, blah. He is also the son of a dentist.
Oh.
Just what?
Oh, yeah.
The son of a dentist. His father is also a dentist, like mine.
Oh,
And,
so that explains why he's going to play the dentist in the remake of Little Shop.
Yeah, that's
I
what
actually
I'm
like that.
talking about.
Yeah.
I'm sure he actively campaigned for that. I'm no doubt on behalf of his dad, yeah.
Yeah. Also, he would just be really great in that role, so I want to see that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's been really nice, I think, because Chris Evans did start off playing very silly parts, and to see him come back around and do a comedy again with Knives Out was just so fun.
Yeah.
He's done a lot of really dark, dramatic stuff, too, that
That's
no one's
true,
ever
yeah.
seen. He did this movie called Fierce People with Diane Lane, and boy, is it dark. And then he did a movie called Puncture about a lawyer who's a drug addict that is insanely intense. I'm glad he seems like he seems delightful. Every time I see him on a talk show, he just seems like the kind of guy you want to grab a beer with.
Yeah, he seems very cool to me. Christopher Woodburn in the chat has a question for Sam. It's trivia about the Schmoedown. Sam, do you remember the answer that won you the first free-for-all?
I mean,
I
yeah, it was Idiocracy.
Ah.
Yeah.
So that means Tom didn't know the answer to that one?
Tom did not know the answer to Idiocracy.
I thought that was what you were calling Tom.
Yeah, right. I was going to say, because I remember it came down to just you and Tom, which was hilarious.
Yes, it did. That's right. Mark and I were the only two people who cleared the table.
Because I messed up because of Inside Out.
You
had to name like 3 of the emotion things.
Right.
Got it. Yep. Ben Snyder suggests having that Twinkie buried with you, Sam, saying that it will probably still resemble food.
I mean, it has changed consistency over the last decade plus.
Okay.
But in no way, shape, or form has it molded or spoiled in any way.
Which is alarming.
We'll pulverize it and use it as embalming fluid. You could be filled
That sounds great. Just slice it into 2 thin halves and place it over my eyes.
Yeah.
At the viewing.
Well, now we know that we should all probably invest in Twinkies. Even though they're questionable as far as edibility goes, clearly they would be good apocalypse food since they just don't ever go bad.
They do not. Does anyone else remember when Hostess basically went out of business and they were going to stop making Twinkies?
Oh,
remember when they made the ones after that had no preservatives in them that were disgusting?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
In a grocery store where I grew up, it was a grocery store called Stu Leonard's, and they had all these like animatronic things throughout the store, basically to keep children entertained while they were grocery shopping with their parents. It was also laid out like an IKEA showroom where you had to walk past everything in the store unless you knew the like secret aisleways to cut through. But I remember they had an animatronic Twinkie, and you press the button and he'd go, "Hi, I'm Twinkie the Kid." And that's all I remember.
Oh, man. It reminds me of the Rocketeer explosion.
Oh, 100%. Yes.
Is that what it was?
It was not Rocketeer explosion, but it was that kind of thing. Yeah, they had a band that was like chickens and eggs and milk cartons. Oh, man. Awesome. Let's see. Nathaniel Moser says, I have a dumb question for Andreyko. Could he pitch a Man-Eater Lad solo/origin film?
Man-Eater Lad is one of the Legion of Superheroes, and I could.
Got it.
Would it get made? No. Sure.
Yep. Justin Toner wants to know, Sam, what movie did you have the most fun working on?
That would be Inglourious Basterds.
Shocker.
I think I probably could have guessed that. Could have guessed.
Yeah.
But.
That's all right. Yes. It's going to be a tough one to top. Quentin Tarantino, Brad Pitt, Eli Roth, half a year in Berlin. That's That's going to be hard to top for me.
Yeah, that's a pretty immersive kind of experience when you're completely taken out of your own environment and just are sort of living and breathing this project that you're working on. It's like a really intense version of going away to theater camp.
That's exactly what it was like.
Yeah.
Can I tell you the craziest thing about filming in Berlin on that movie? So Till Schweiger is also in that movie. Do you guys know who Till is?
I don't think so.
You'd recognize him. He plays Hugo Stiglitz.
Okay.
The Nazi
about.
soldier who kills other Nazis. So in Germany, Till is Tom Hanks, Julia Roberts, Brad Pitt, and Sandra Bullock combined.
It's like Mads Mikkelsen in Denmark.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes. Like, Till Schweiger is the biggest celebrity in that country in terms of actors. And so when we would go out, sometimes after shooting, we'd get in a series of like small vans that had tinted windows, and we'd go from like the studio to a closed down restaurant because 30 of us would go. And paparazzi would get wind from security people where we were going, whatever. And so then they'd get as close as they could to try to get like pictures of, Quentin and Brad Pitt. And so like we'd be walking exposed for 10 feet between the van and the door to the restaurant. And you'd hear paparazzi going, "Oh, Brad, over here, Quentin, over here." And then Till would walk out of the van, and these paparazzi would explode. They would set on fire. Till! Oh my God! They would lose their minds.
Oh my God, that is amazing.
And it was so funny to me to see like, "Oh, sorry, Brad. Sorry, Quentin. You guys are second, third fiddle."
Well.
This guy is more famous than the two of you put together, and I'm all here for it.
I love that. I love just seeing that perspective of
international perspective.
Yeah, exactly. The international perspective.
Yep.
It is a little eye-opening because I think especially being in the States, we get very much like a tunnel vision of who is super famous, but it's always subjective as well because I feel like there are people who are really famous and exciting to me that other people don't care about,
If you had to pick one, like if there was one director, singer, actor, or whatnot, like that was a hero or inspirational, or like if you could meet the one person that means the most to you that's sort of in that famous category, who would it be?
Okay, well, my inclination, and I sort of met her because I worked on Saving Mr. Banks, but is Emma Thompson.
Oh, that's
we share a name. I love the version of Sense and Sensibility that she's in, that she adapted the screenplay
that she wrote.
Exactly.
For actor, for me, it would be Helen Mirren.
Oh, yes. Great
and
choice.
If it was a director, without fail, John Waters.
Oh, excellent.
That's a really good choice. Yep.
What about you, Sam?
Who haven't you met that you would want to meet?
Sam's like, listen, I'm working the Wizard World circuit.
Hey, you guys, I get to hang out with Henry Winkler on the reg. Okay?
I love him.
I'm living a pretty
He's
good
so
life.
sweet.
He's the nicest guy.
He really is.
For me, it gets really hard because I've been doing this now for so long that like oh my God, Robert De Niro's going to be there. Like, it doesn't have the same sheen as it used to. So
for sure,
for me, I wish I could meet those people who I admired who are no longer with us. Like if I had my druthers, I would bring Groucho Marx back to life for a day.
Yeah.
Just so I could hang out with him, which is very selfish, by the way. Groucho Marx is alive for a day, and I'm the only one he gets to talk to. But something like that, something like Stanley Kubrick. I would love to hang out with Kubrick for a day. But outside of that, someone who I've never met that I would like to meet, maybe Robert Plant, lead singer Led Zeppelin, because that to me is still one of the few worlds I get giddy about: musicians and baseball players.
Interesting. I got really starstruck on the red carpet for The Mandalorian when I was talking to Ludwig Göransson. like the
That's
composer.
fun though. I love that.
That's
Those are
great.
the unsung heroes.
Yeah.
Like if you could imagine like meeting Roger Deakins, I
Oh
would just
my
be like,
God, I would die. I would
Yeah.
die. Yeah, he was the cinematographer on one of my favorite childhood movies, that like 92 or whatever version of Secret Garden.
that's true. That was early work from
Yeah,
him.
that was early
Yep.
Roger Deakins.
It's
Roger Deakins.
crazy to me that it took all the way to Blade Runner 2049.
Oh,
for
can
him
you
to win
believe
an
that? I
Oscar.
know.
I don't. It's crazy. I just
Unbelievable.
I was just thinking about one of my favorite movies from the aughts is The Assassination of Jesse James by the coward Robert Ford.
Yes.
I love that movie so much. And I love the music. And the reason why I was thinking about it is because the music was used in the Tiger King. We can get
Tiger
to. We can get to.
King!
It was used there, but it just this and Roger Deakins shot that movie along with tons of Coen Brothers movies, and
Yeah.
Assassination is the best Terrence Malick movie that Terrence Malick did make.
it's Andrew Dominic.
And it is what they call like a demo disc for Blu-rays. It is so beautiful digitally. Those fields of wheat and the stuff. It is a beautiful film.
Yeah.
Yep.
Matt Mago, just to address your question, I did background on Saving Mr. Banks. I had just gotten hired as a tour guide at Universal, and one of the girls who was in my training class for trams, she still works there also, my friend Natalie, her friend was part of the background casting department on Saving Mr. Banks, and I don't really like to do background work, but they were like, hey, it's going to be 60s period clothing and we need you to come to Disneyland. And I was like, yeah, okay, I'll do that. So, yeah, there is a scene where they're first going to Disneyland where I walk right behind Tom Hanks. You can see me, so keep an eye out.
Well done.
Yes.
Do you think Tom Hanks will ever be in another movie that is saving and then a person's name, so we can call it the Tom Hanks Saving Trilogy?
The Saving Trilogy. He needs to do one more.
He does.
Sure.
Like what's her name? Oh God. Oh, this is terrible. I'm so glad we're not on the
Got 15
right
seconds.
Now. Then I'll come up with it. Mina Suvari. I got there. So Mina Suvari was in American Pie,
right?
American Beauty. And then they changed the name of the movie that she was in to be called The Last American Virgin.
Wow.
So she'd signed up to be in some movie, and then because the first two movies that she was in that made her famous had American in the title. At least that's what I remember at the time. I could be wrong. But yeah, so it was like boom, 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 American, American, American. I would love to secretly find out that she's Canadian. She's not, but
yeah.
That would be fun for me.
I know she did only all these 3 American movies. American she's not even American.
Right. Or not even Canadian, like she's Dutch and just has a perfect American accent.
Her last few movies premiered on American Airlines, so there's some.
There you go.
Let's see. Nathaniel Moser asks, question for all. What obscure movie do you wish more people knew? I personally love The Last Unicorn. Is that an obscure movie?
I don't think that's obscure.
I don't think that's obscure.
But yeah, that's Emma and I for you, though.
Yeah. But I think that's very particular to my interests. The first one that comes to mind for me, and I don't know how obscure this is either, but I certainly didn't encounter a lot of friends who'd seen it growing up, and I used to watch it all the time as a kid, is The Adventures of Baron von Munchausen.
Oh my God.
Oh, wow.
That's a great movie. Isn't that a Terry Gilliam movie?
It is, yeah, it's Terry Gilliam.
Yeah.
Uma Thurman as Aphrodite.
Venus,
on the
Yeah. And and Eric Idle.
Oh, it's a great cast.
And,
Robin Williams is in it.
Yep.
Yeah. Oh no, I remember that movie big time. Oh, and a super young Canadian Sarah Polley.
That's correct.
Yeah.
Yeah. I'll take the Robin Williams thread from that, Emma, and I will say a movie that I think everyone should watch is Kenneth Branagh's Dead Again.
Oh, yes.
It's so good.
An uncredited Robin Williams, Campbell Scott. It is an amazing, smart film, and I've just rewatched it. It's so good. I guarantee you, if you watch it, you will love it.
Yeah, that's a great suggestion.
Yeah.
Yep.
I couldn't come up with one right off the top of my head, but I just had a really weird brain connection when you mentioned Baron Munchausen and Uma Thurman coming out of the shell, it made me think of this Judi Dench movie from, I don't know, the mid-aughts called Mrs. Henderson Presents.
Oh yeah, with Bob Hoskins.
Yes,
Oh.
and it's Stephen Frears directed it, so it's not like it's a bunch of unknowns or anything, but it was just a small little like Pathé Pictures film from that time, and I'm a Judi Dench devotee and whatnot, and I loved that movie so much that I actually bought that on DVD at the time.
And it features full frontal Bob Hoskins, if I remember correctly.
It does indeed.
Yeah, period piece, World War II during the Blitz, a little theater company. I really like that movie.
And
Rachel, No, go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say Judi Dench on Notes on a Scandal.
Kate Blanchett is so good in that.
Another movie that should just be called Bitches, but it's an amazing film. Watching Judi Dench play psychotic is amazing.
Amazing. Rachel, I have to ask.
Both of them do a modern set movie is pretty amazing. Sorry, babe.
No, that's okay. I just had to ask because you said it twice now. Before you met me, did you refer to 2000 to 2009 as the aughts, or did I instill that in you?
I don't know.
Mm.
I feel like that's more of a thing that people started referring to it once we got into the 2010s. We couldn't just say 2000s anymore, so it had to be something. I don't remember.
Well, I've been pushing it since 2000. Ought 1, ought 2. Anyway, to answer that question from 20 minutes ago, my answer is a movie called Deterrence.
I have not seen that.
Which is, no, most people have not seen it. Most people haven't even heard of it. But it's my dear friend Kevin Pollak is the lead in this movie, and he plays the President of the United States. And it's a movie that takes place in one location, in a diner in the middle of nowhere, in the middle of a blizzard. And it was written and directed by Rod Lurie. Right? What's that?
Yeah, he used to be a film critic.
Yes, Rod Lurie, the former film critic, who has turned out to be a damn fine writer-director.
What was the name of the Joan Allen?
Contender.
Yeah. So he did The Contender after Deterrence. And then more recently, he has a movie called The Outpost, which is based on the book written by CNN's Jake Tapper. And it's about, it's a true story about soldiers in, is it Iraq or Afghanistan? Rach, you read it, didn't you? It's Afghanistan, right? Yeah, Afghanistan. Anyway, they adapted that into a feature. It was supposed to premiere at South by this year, but look for it on VOD very soon, I'm sure. But yeah, no, it's a really, really cool movie. Sean Astin is in the movie. Who else is in the movie? Other people. Good people are in this movie. I promise. But Kevin Pollak plays a Jewish president, which we've still not had. So there you go.
Sorry.
Solid choices all around.
Yeah.
I like it.
Ed Haskell has a long comment in the chat. Tom Hanks to star in Castaway 2, Saving Joe versus the Volcano with the man with one big red shoe that splashed on Captain Phillips on the way to Philadelphia.
That sounds like a Wayans Brothers movie.
Yeah.
That sounds like an anime title. They tend to be unnecessarily long. Yeah, so I kind of wanted to come back to, I want to make sure I give the right person credit. Let me scroll back. So Anthony Gonzalez had a really interesting question for Rachel. When Winds of Winter is released, are you going to avoid the internet until you read it? And the reason I wanted to talk about it was because it was bringing back memories for me of reading that 7th Harry Potter book and not wanting to, like, reading it all, in the course of 48 hours or whatever.
Day.
Yeah. Yep. Because I didn't want anybody to spoil it for me.
Mm-hmm.
And so
I remember.
Yeah. But certainly the internet was around, but it wasn't as prevalent in our lives as it is now. Like, people weren't really using smartphones and things at that point. Mm-hmm. So I do kind of wonder how such a big book in, like, our current very tapped in internet sort of world, like, what do you do?
Yeah, we live in an
out.
Okay, shush. It better come out. I
Listen,
have less faith about
George R. R. Martin is just as quarantined as the rest of us. He could finish
very
that damn book.
everything crossed. I don't know. The final book after that is far less certain, but at least Winds of Winter, for the most part, I believe, over 50% written.
Mm-hmm.
We unfortunately live in the era of social media who are itching to spoil things.
Yes.
Like you go on Twitter, like the second after anything happens in an episode of Game of Thrones, you're risking everything for going on Twitter to have that kind of stuff. So I've no doubt they'll be.
Give me that one.
What are you doing,
Sam?
Yeah. We're sharing the bottle.
Nice. Sam just disappeared.
It disappeared and popped up into my screen.
That would be a real funny bit.
Yeah. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
You're welcome. Bye. I will lock myself in a cave and I will not sleep and I will drink and eat the bare minimum, whatever it takes for me to get through that 900 probably page book.
Yes.
Because I want no interference. I want no comments or opinions or anything until I've read it myself, and then I can delve into the whole thing. But that's what I did with, like you said, Deathly Hallows. I bought that book at Costco because my friend had the brilliant idea of getting it at Costco when it opened at 8 a.m. that morning. It was a nice stack of books right in the entrance.
Yeah. I was on
great.
vacation. I was in Maine with my family, and I want to say I got it at like a Walmart, and it was the same deal where it was just stack of books right by the entrance. And then I had friends that were doing summer stock at a theater that wasn't too far away. So I went to go like hang out with them and spend the night. And I just like remember not wanting to talk to anybody that was reading Harry Potter because I just didn't want to get it spoiled for me. And then as soon as I got back to the cottage we were staying at, I just read the entire thing. I did not stop.
What play were they doing when you were there?
They were rehearsing for West Side Story, and they were in the middle of their run on Seussical.
Aww.
Yep. So, yeah, it was fun. But yeah, it was definitely a marathon read. Yeah,
with a box of tissues by my side.
Oh, totally. I remember when I was going to stop, but then something crazy happened. And so I just read the whole thing and stayed up till like 4 a.m. probably.
Now, I've never read any of your Harry Potter books, but
oh, be nice.
I'm being nice. When the first movie came out, I, of course, knew that there was this big movie, Harry Potter and the Sorcerer's Stone, and it was taken over the world, and it was very, very popular. And I didn't see it in theaters, but then like a month, maybe 2 months tops after it had come out here in the United States, I was up in Vancouver working on a movie. And I was walking around downtown Vancouver, and I walked in front of a movie theater, and it was showing a movie called Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone. And I remember thinking to myself, it's been a month. Is this sequel out already?
Americans are just dumb.
Yep.
Yeah, it's true.
I mean, it was quickly remedied what the issue was. But there was an absolute minute there where I was like, what?
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, so for those casual fans who happen to be abroad, it was a fun moment. That's my Harry Potter story.
Sent us British copies of the Harry Potter books. So we had a paperback copy of Harry Potter and the Philosopher's Stone because she lives in Dundee. So, yeah. There was a good question. I think it was really just a comment from Justin Toner for you, Rachel. I'm reading first Fire and Blood book, loving it. Then after that, I left off on Feast for Crows for A Song of Ice and Fire. So, Justin, you have read A Feast for Crows or you haven't? Because, let me tell you, A Feast for Crows is great. And don't let anybody else tell you otherwise.
It's a tough first read, but the second time I read it, it was so good.
Yeah.
Is that the one with all the secondary characters?
Yes.
Yes. Yeah.
it's the
You lose
first
track
time-
of some of the other ones.
Yeah, but it's the first time you get Cersei as a POV character, and
Agreed.
she's amazing.
Yep. And I'm all about the Martells. The TV show did not get the Martells
No, the
right.
TV show screwed
Read
up the
the books.
Martells so bad. I will never get over it.
Yep.
I just,
Unfortunate.
my
Yeah.
parents are just sending me. I had the a omnibus hardcover of the first 2 Dragonlance trilogies.
Oh my God,
I
Dragonlance.
was
I'm
a kid.
I'm gonna be trapped in my apartment. I want to reread them because I remember loving those. I was really snooty about them because I'm like, how could a licensed D&D book actually be good? Those
Mm-hmm.
were good the first 2 trilogies were great fantasy trilogies.
Dude, so
Yep.
that's the funniest thing to me. And I love that like tabletop role playing games are getting so much attention as like a form of entertainment these days. But it is crazy to me that people are like, man, like Critical Role is so revolutionary. And I love those guys and I'm thrilled for their success. But like this has been going on for a long time. You had things like the Dragonlance books or things like Record of Lodoss War, which is an anime series, which is literally like based on a transcription of somebody's D&D game.
Right.
So yeah, again, not revolutionary.
Have you guys seen this is probably more for you, Emma.
Yeah.
That game company Asmodee,
Yes.
they've made a Shining board game.
Oh, awesome!
It looks terrifying.
Oh my God, I want to play that.
Yeah, I have it on order, so
Oh, that sounds amazing.
we're allowed to interact again. We can play it.
Yes. Yeah.
John, who's still talking about some of the Martin stuff, he asked
Yeah.
if I read Fire and Blood, and the answer is yes, and I absolutely adored it because it reads like a history book, and I'm like a history, nonfiction history nut, so it's like the
Sure.
perfect amalgamation of a fiction book, but also a history book,
Yeah.
and it covers a lot of really cool historical years that are hinted at in the A Song of Ice and Fire, but they actually get their own book. So
So do you love the
yeah.
Silmarillion, Rachel?
That's exactly what I was going to say. Rachel
adore
loves
the Silmarillion. There are days when I think I like that better than the Lord of the Rings, which I realize is slightly blasphemous, but there are stories in the Silmarillion
Rachel,
that are so good.
Uh-oh.
Have you read the Dune books, Rachel?
Yes, I've read the first 5 or 6.
Oh, okay.
I read the first 3 many
First 3
times.
are the best.
Oh yeah, and that's why I think I only got a few more beyond that. I didn't keep going, but I read the first 3.
They get way weird after the 3rd one.
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah.
Hey guys, I got a question.
Yeah, Sam, go ahead.
Did George Martin write the Game of Thrones books before or after he produced the Beatles?
You know.
Same humor.
It was after his brother Dean broke up with Jerry Lewis.
That's right. Yeah.
That's when it was.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yep.
Thank you.
For the young people in the audience.
For all the over 60s watching this stream, you're welcome.
Now go to bed.
Stay home, whatever you do.
Let's
Somebody else grocery shop for you.
There was somebody that I wanted to attribute it to the right person, saying that Malcolm's Middle Earth Media says Sam looks like he's waiting for someone to interview him for his role in the upcoming Batman movies.
Yeah, it does sound like one of those.
100%.
Sam, you're playing Bat-Mite, right?
That's right.
That might.
That's Damian Wayne, man. Come on, get it together.
Oh, you'd be a great voice for Damian Wayne.
Voice?
These days, that's what's gonna.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
That's a compliment.
I would
Sam.
love to be the voice of Damian Wayne. Oh my God, that would be. Oh, but I would have to play the pissiest Damon Wayne. Damian Wayne? Damian Wayne. Damon Wayans. No, I would have to play the pissiest Damian Wayne that has ever existed.
That's why I said you'd be good at it.
Yeah.
No, I just really want to yell. I need to be very angry.
Yeah,
that's all I need. Yeah. Hey guys, while Rachel's not here.
Oh no.
Yeah, I don't know. She's probably in the bathroom. She's been drinking a lot of wine, guys. We both have.
Thank God she's not wearing a body mic like that guy at that council meeting.
Oh yeah, I saw about that.
Yeah. Anyway, I was thinking of asking her to marry me. Do you guys approve?
Yeah, I think that's a great idea, Sam.
Okay, cool. I thought it would just be a fun private conversation between the three of us.
Only if her father gives you 3 oxen, 2 chickens, and a handful of corn.
Oh, man, I forgot about the dowry.
Yeah.
It better be good. Oh, yeah, here she comes. Be quiet, guys. Be quiet. Hi. Hey, honey. Hi. Welcome back.
What I miss?
Nothing.
Nothing.
Definitely nothing happened here.
Chat says that they give you their blessing, Sam, for the thing that we didn't.
We're definitely not going to tell Rachel
about.
no.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah.
Alright.
Let's see. Okay, Hassel says, Sam, I know as an actor you want to be called back to a show you were on, but any movement on going back to NCIS? An NCIS accountant has such potential for fun storylines.
It really does. It really does, doesn't it? I'm very sorry to say, I don't think they're going to call NCIS agent cashier Fred Seymour back anytime soon. They last had me on in, I think it was 2013.
Oh, whoa.
It has been a hot minute.
Yeah.
If they haven't asked me back by now, I am not holding my breath anymore.
You never know. Maybe it's time for a comeback.
I tell you what. Here's actually the tip off for me was probably last year I got asked to audition for NCIS New Orleans.
Oh,
I think that's a show.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And they asked me to audition for it, and I was like, look, I'm happy to audition for it, but you guys know I've already been on NCIS twice as this particular character. I know they're in the same universe. And they were like, yeah, that's not a problem.
It's like the Law and Order universe.
Was casting's response.
That's amazing.
My guess is I don't think we're going to see Fred Seymour again anytime soon.
Yeah.
Their loss.
Malcolm's Middle Earth Media asks, what TV shows have you guys been watching during the lockdown? And the answer that I know we all watched is
1, 2,
Tiger King.
3, Tiger King.
Tiger King.
Sorry, I jumped on that.
I had a mouthful of water there.
Tiger King. Man, when you need to watch something that you're like, reality is even weirder than what we're currently living.
Yep.
Yeah. Yep. First off, I want to make sure that everyone watching this has seen it. Because if you haven't, I don't know, I like to set a clock in this. I'm like, all right, give us 5 minutes if you don't want spoilers so that we can talk about it and then come back in 5 minutes. So this is your fair warning. Come back in, 3, 4, 5 minutes.
It's the most Florida thing that doesn't take place in Florida.
That was exactly Sam's first comment to the whole thing. Is like, of course it's Florida.
Of course it's Florida.
Very beginning.
Number one. But number two, my issue with it is it's 3 different documentaries.
Yes.
All in one documentaries or docuseries. And I felt like we didn't get enough backstory or closure on a couple of the big things.
Sure. Yeah.
Like, I want to watch an entire 7-part series just on that Doc guy.
Doc Antle and his tiger sex cult.
I actually think
sex cult.
The creepiest of all of them.
He's totally the creepiest of all of them.
I need 7 hours on that.
Though, honestly, of all of them, the one I hated the most was Jeff Lowe and his wife, Samantha. They were horrible.
There is not one redeemable person in there. Not one.
I think Sapp is kind of okay.
Some of the employees.
All right. Yeah, the two employees. The guy with no legs was okay. And then the other guy who just had the long hair, I forget what his name was, he was smoking all the time. That other Joe employee, that guy was okay too.
Yeah, he was
But
fine.
outside of maybe those 2 guys, I hated everyone. Not one redeemable person in the group. And they were all monsters. But I want to see the 7-hour docuseries on the police investigation and how it was clearly bungled into the disappearance
of Carol's
husband. Oh my God.
Yeah. It's one of those things. It's a show where gay white trash polygamy is the least interesting thing going on in the show.
Yeah. It's so funny. Yeah, my roommate
It's
listened to some like multi-part podcast series on it, and she said that they didn't even touch on the Doc Antle like tiger sex cult stuff. And we both were like, how many people did we know growing up that were like secretly in a tiger cult?
Yeah, right.
Yeah, probably a lot.
Yeah. Seriously.
Yeah, so I need them to give me Tiger King season 2. And
I want season 2 of I Am Not Okay With This as well.
Oh, I can't wait for that. I loved the first season. It was such a fast watch. I watched it all in one sitting.
That was so good.
It was just really well done.
We did Tiger King in 2 sittings.
Yeah, you can't stop.
It's watching
They'll do more. They've got so much footage
because
they can use.
Yeah.
No, I get it. It's like it's watching a train wreck. It's all these things. Is like, I can't believe this. Followed by, really, I can't believe that. Are you kidding me? This is absurd. And yet it happened. And like, so it's hard not to watch. But at the end of the day, I'm like, I hate you all. You're all monsters.
Yeah.
And the cats need to rise up and overthrow you all, because like there were a lot of times where I couldn't watch because of like the abuse to the
oh,
animals, and
absolutely.
that was the hard part
Animal
for me.
abusers should be fed to animals.
Yeah, they should.
Yeah,
and there's one scene in Tiger King where it looks like something like that might go down, and it's very exciting, but spoilers, he makes it out. I was rooting for the lion.
Yeah.
Okay, question on Tiger King. Never mind, it disappeared. Oh well. Anyway, Rachel, as a reality editor yourself, what did you think of the editing on Tiger King?
I think the editors I think those editors were having the time of their lives because. And I'll hand it to the director too. I told him I'm not the biggest fan of when a director inserts themselves into the story.
Yes.
A la more, but but I could see like you kind of needed it at times, and he limited it, which I appreciated. But he clearly had an aesthetic. Like every time they like would hero shot Carol or like any of the characters, or like that the prosecutor woman, like the first time you see her, it zooms into her feet and it tilts up and she's got her arms and you're just
crazy.
Like, what am I watching?
I know.
So weird.
Yeah.
But
I feel like
we're just having a blast.
It felt like
Especially
Vice Principals, the documentary.
Yeah.
Because it's crazy.
I feel like the editors on that, in your opinion, Rachel, they probably had a very easy job because it wasn't about, oh God, we got to find this footage. We got to find this footage. There's so much footage. All we have to do is figure out what to cut.
Yeah. It was more
which seems a lot easier.
Yeah. It was more about trying to decide thematically what each episode was, because I could tell by the footage that they were timeline jumping a little bit.
Yes.
Like they would cover somebody, like one of the husband of his, John, who left him, actually
the one
shows
with
up
the
in
tattoos and stuff.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, with the teeth.
Meth mouth.
No, his teeth were practicing social distancing. He was ahead of the curve.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like you could tell that like they told what happened to him, but then later on he's in shots even though he'd already left. And then like I did some reading and apparently he was still around to some extent, but they would concentrate on one piece of the story, even if chronologically they jumped backwards in time in the next episode to cover another aspect of the story. So, I could see that editing wise, it was probably the main thing they were trying to figure out was in each episode, what do we concentrate on and how do we follow the timeline of that? And then they just had all of that B-roll of the cats. And so every time they probably didn't have coverage or an interview or whatever they needed, they were just like, well, we have this massive stockpile of images of these animals eating, sleeping, staring at the camera, pacing, fighting, whatever. And like in the strategic use of all of that stuff, I was just like, nope, those editors were just having too much fun with this.
Yeah.
That's going to be, Joe Exotic, is, if we're allowed outside at Halloween, is going to be a huge costume.
I read that too, and I 100% agree
now
with
and selling them on Etsy.
My friend Kelsey did on her Instagram. She's at Van Helsing, like Von Helsing, but Von Helsing. she did a Carol Baskin Robbins cosplay. So
with
Carol
the
Baskin, but,
flowers.
with Baskin Robbins paraphernalia. It's pretty great. Yes. Let's see. So Ed Haskell was the one. Mm-hmm.
Real quick though, show of hands. Who believes Carol murdered her ex-husband? Okay, just wanted to be sure we're all on the same page. That there is no doubt that woman killed that man for the money. Okay,
no
great.
doubt.
Fed him to the cats and laughed the whole time while she drank a box of Franzia.
Yep.
That's a clear example of a woman or a person who thinks they are smarter than everybody else in the room at any given moment.
Yeah. I used to watch these what we now call murder shows.
Yes.
2020 Investigates, Cold Case Files, whatever. I used to watch a lot of those. Files. And there's the recurring theme of the husband who murders his wife.
Yep.
Who thinks who's fucking Donald Trump. He thinks he's the smartest person in every room that he walks into.
Yep.
And he can always talk his way out of trouble. Because if I say it, people will believe it.
Right.
And these guys, more often than not, when they go to trial, they fucking either represent themselves or they insist on testifying.
Well, look at
against their lawyers'
like
advice.
Joe.
Yeah, exactly.
Look at Ted Bundy. Ted Bundy people like Ted Bundy was attractive for a serial killer.
Right. For a serial killer.
We forget that part. Yeah. If you watch that newest documentary about him, he was an idiot. He thought there's nothing worse, as we're seeing now with our president, than a moron who thinks they're super smart.
Yeah.
Nothing more dangerous.
Nope.
And Bundy is just like the cock of the walk, and you're like, dude, you're going to be electrocuted in a couple of years.
Yeah. Anyway, that's what Carol strikes me as.
Yeah, she strikes me as that as well.
She's like, that's crazy. No, it's not crazy, it's not. Carol. We're on to you. Why would I do that? Because you have every reason to do it. What do you? Don't just repeat the question back.
Yep. So the question about the show was from Haskell 420. He rewrote it. He asks, Tiger King, everyone's talking about how it's great. It's a must watch. Is it great because it's disturbing and effed up more so than it actually being a good show to watch? No, it's legitimately a good show to watch.
It's really well produced.
It's really well produced.
I will say this about Tiger King. It's not my favorite docuseries I've ever seen.
Sure.
But for where we are right now in this country, in the world, with everything that's going on, it is absolutely the insane escapism that everybody needs 7 hours of.
It's not the document we want, but it's the documentary we need.
It's so true. It's
100%. Yeah.
I just want to say hello to Molly Damon in the chat and also Frank Janish, both hanging out. Thanks for stopping by, friends. Appreciate you all showing up. And Wiley Todd wants to know what everyone's favorite James Bond movie is.
Mine probably, he's not my favorite James Bond,
right.
But on Her Majesty's Secret Service.
It's a good movie.
Is a really great movie.
Yeah.
That gives us enough depth into who Bond is as a character, but doesn't make it a soap opera. And I think George Lazenby is really underrated.
Sure.
Rachel's definitely going to need a minute to respond because the internet just went out in my house.
Oh, no!
It's okay. I'm talking to you via cellular data because I didn't want to overload the system, but in spite of that, it still dropped out on her. She'll be back. I promise she'll come back to the meeting.
I'm going to not make our lower thirds go away.
Okay, good.
So Marc Andreyko, you're Rachel Cushing right now.
That's fine. I'm literally watching the router reboot itself from the office.
Oh, no.
So I promise she'll be back. Okay, it's back online.
Okay, good.
But to answer it, my favorite Bond movie is, honestly, it's probably Casino Royale.
I do love Casino Royale. Yeah.
I don't know what to say. Like, I love GoldenEye. I love the classic Bond movies.
I have a lot of love for GoldenEye.
Goldfinger's probably the best of the classic ones for me. I love.
I love Goldfinger too.
I have a soft spot in my heart for the Timothy Dalton ones because those were the first Bond movies I saw when I was a kid.
Sure.
There she
Okay.
is.
All right, we did a little shuffle, so I gotta move our lower thirds around. You guys are
Uh-oh.
watch this
That's
happen in
fine.
real time. So.
So,
I'm so
Sam,
sorry. I was
since I'm Rachel, you
Sam.
you want to marry me because I look like you,
And
right?
Rachel. There we go.
Rachel, I let the internet go out from the office, and I knew you were about to freeze on us, and I'm so sorry.
That's okay.
There you
We knew it
go.
could happen.
We knew it could happen.
Yeah.
Anyway, yeah. So we were talking about our favorite Bond movies. So go.
Oh, well, that was the perfect time for me.
Rachel,
Wow.
Yeah, I agree. I think Casino Royale is great. I also have a lot of love for Goldfinger. It is, and let me preface this by saying this movie is not good. But
Moonraker.
I love Man with the Golden Gun.
Oh, it's not a bad one.
I mean, it's
pretty
better than
silly.
it's better than Quantum of Solace
Better than Spectre.
Yeah.
or Spectre.
Die Another
Well,
Day.
Die Another Day. That's the one I'm thinking of. It's
Yeah,
better than Die Another Day.
Die Another Day. Ooh.
Yeah.
I think Spectre's worse than Die Another Day because Die Another Day is at least ridiculous and goofy and campy and stupid. Spectre is just his stepbrother,
awful.
his foster brother. It's just it's garbage. It makes James Bond a moron and everyone who's around him a moron.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wasn't it also like retconning a whole bunch
Well,
of stuff?
Blofeld
in a
was
really
his
weird
foster
way?
brother.
Oh, yeah.
Ugh. And Christoph Waltz giving the same performance he's given in everything.
Yeah.
Kind of
Yeah,
can't argue
That's
there.
the first time, Sam.
Let's
Well,
see.
He's very gifted, but I think the problem is probably the movies that keep offering him the most
yeah.
attractive offers
Or to do
are
Hans Landa
similar, or to
every
do
time.
Hans Landa, a
Yeah,
version of Hans Landa.
100%. Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's very true. I don't.
And I
That's
don't
like
blame him
Mulan and Alita.
because, and here's why I'll say I don't blame him for that is he's not a young man.
Oh, I don't
Yeah.
judge him.
He
Take
did
the
not
roles,
reach that
absolutely.
level of success until he was in his 50s.
Wow.
So
Yeah.
I don't blame him for taking the paychecks.
So when I sell out,
Because they all have great theme songs.
Ah. Okay.
They all have great.
So what's
theme
the best?
songs.
What's the best
Ooh,
Bond
the
theme
best
song? then?
Bond theme song.
oh,
Ooh.
Goldfinger.
Yeah, Goldfinger's a classic.
Okay.
I do like the Man with the Golden Gun theme song. That's fun. That's
Yeah.
the
View
only
to a
one.
Kill
She's
is
got
good.
the
I was-
singer.
Just about to say "View to a Kill."
Yeah, View to a Kill, dope as hell.
It's pretty Duran
It's
Duran.
so
for the
good.
win.
I sing
Yeah,
that.
it's really
you guys,
good.
I have to tell you, I sing that at karaoke regularly.
All right, when this whole thing's done and up, we're gonna have to see that.
Yes, it's amazing.
Was The Living Daylights was Aha, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yes. Yes.
Yep.
Wow.
Wow.
It's so funny because they go from very like sort of jazzy, classy to like hardcore 80s real fast.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously the one that Wings did is very good. Live and Let Die.
Live and Let Die.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a good one. That's a good one.
Am I allowed to say I liked Skyfall? I
Yeah.
love Adele.
Of
Okay.
course.
Sure.
Putting it up.
Yeah, it's a good song.
You know my name.
Oh,
The late great Chris
yes.
Cornell.
Chris Cornell. Amazing.
Oh
That's a
man,
good point.
that was a great one.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yup. Love it. A View to a Kill is so bad. The movie is so bad. The theme
The
song.
movie's terrible.
The
Yes,
theme
but
song
the theme
slaps.
song's pretty good.
It's
Yeah.
got Grace Jones and it's got Christopher Walken doing his Max Shrek before he did Batman.
Yeah.
It's true.
That's true.
It's the exact same
True.
performance.
Yep.
It's totally true.
Yep.
Manny Gonzalez says, I liked Moonraker, and Man with the Golden Gun was more of a low action, more plot movie, if that makes sense. I have a lot of weird love for Moonraker also, just because there's a space scientist named Holly Goodhead in it. But
It's
she's
true.
like, but the thing I like about that character, though, is like she's got her own thing going on. She's definitely not just like a damsel in distress kind of Bond babe. And
Right.
she was the first one to wear that like black leather suit that we see on a lot of sort of like spy girls nowadays.
Yeah.
Black Widow.
I just
Yeah.
want to know, like in the 60s and 70s, there must have been a meeting when they were pitching these femme fatales in the Bond movies. They were like, if we're not egregiously over the top, people aren't
Yes.
going to get it. So let's go with Pussy Galore.
Yep.
And that continued into the 90s.
Oh yeah, but the thing is, like, those names came from the books. Like, those are Ian Fleming names.
I mean, I get
so
that.
they could be like, it wasn't my idea, it was his.
Right.
It was his idea. But I mean, I guess the meeting had to have been like, so we're going with these names? We're good with that? In 1977, we're good with this?
Yeah. Yes.
You guys are okay? Xenia Onatop? We're good with that?
Yep.
Okay, great.
Yep. Oh man, Plenty
I'm
O'Toole.
surprised they never used the name Connie Lingus.
Oh, I'm surprised they didn't.
Or like,
I was just gonna say, I'd believe it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Well, that was what was so funny about the first Austin Powers movie, was them just being like, a lot of vagina.
Yeah, how do we top James Bond?
But like, if that character appeared in an actual James Bond story, you'd go, cool.
It would belong.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Cool.
All right, Schmoedown players, for 30 points.
We play this game all the time.
Oh boy.
Name the actress who played a lot of vagina.
Oh, good question.
Which one is she in?
She's in
Austin Powers.
The first
The
one?
first one,
Austin
yeah.
Powers?
The first one.
You look like you're Googling over there, Mark.
Yeah, I'm totally Googling because I have no idea.
I'm waiting for the delay
Fabiana
to catch up to
Udina.
Fabiana
Udina.
Udina.
Like any of us were
It's either Udino or Udina.
Okay.
But yeah, I think it's Fabiana Udino.
Fabiana Udina.
She is Italian, or Greek.
She's very pretty.
Oh, she's beautiful,
Yeah.
and she's in, and this is true, Hard Bodies 2.
Great.
Again, this is for the over 60 crowd. There's no reason I should know this.
I didn't know there was a sequel to Hard Bodies.
Oh, there sure was.
Yeah.
And I think they shot it in Greece. And it's one of her first roles.
Here's the description of it on IMDb. A film crew traveling from Greece to produce a movie, but before their work is done, they face many unusual situations, including numerous opportunities to take off their clothes.
Cool.
Yes, that is absolutely the appropriate synopsis for Hard Bodies 2, the 80s finest.
Wow.
Yeah. I have to tell you, I missed Hard Bodies 1. So.
Oh, that's a cinematic classic.
I'm gonna.
Hard Bodies 1 was a late night HBO movie at many a sleepover during the 80s in America.
Yeah. In the 80s.
It's true. In the 80s. The 80s were a magical time.
Full of cocaine and money.
Full of cocaine, money, and women entirely being objectified on set.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, we weren't even kidding around.
Oh,
Yeah.
not even trying.
Not even trying. Zero effort was made to give women reasonable storylines or characters in the 80s.
Yeah. I know it is
Zero
really
effort.
interesting when you look at like just storytelling nowadays versus even just looking back as far as the 80s, that like giving women storylines at all is sort of a relatively new thing.
Yeah.
But there were outliers. And
there's always been
crazy.
outliers.
There were I remember having this conversation of like when Alien came and Sigourney Weaver and Ellen Ripley became this incredible, heroic, interesting, layered female lead character. It's like, well, here we go. And then like we talked about Five last time. We talked about like Working Girl and even like Thelma and Louise. Like, why didn't those explode into tons of films that, were female led with complicated, interesting characters for them? But
it's interesting. Haskell 420 said Porky's and Blake Edwards' SOB, as I'm assuming examples of objectifying movies. But I would argue that neither one of those movies objectifies women in the way that some of the more base ones. Porky's, the women are the smartest characters in it. I mean, they're sex comedies, but Kim Cattrall's character isn't mocked for being Lassie. I don't know if you've seen the show. And there's one girl, the one main female lead on it is always busting the guy's chops. And Blake Edwards' SOB is actually a really great movie if you haven't seen it. It's known for Julie Andrews bearing her breasts in it, but it's if you like The Player, you'd like SOB.
Oh, I love The Player.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've not seen.
I just think like a movie I know Rachel's never seen, Revenge of the Nerds.
Oh, rapey.
Nope. And I think at this point I refuse.
And I've just said, like, it is beyond problematic at this point.
It's rapey. It's homophobic. It's racist. Ugh.
It's awful.
Yeah.
It is awful in its depiction of male-female relationships.
Yeah.
And like, I kind of cringe, like the way people say, "Oh man, Revenge of the Nerds." I'm like, I feel like we should talk about Revenge of the Nerds the same way we talk about Song of the South. Like,
Song of the South is a better movie.
Yeah.
Right. Like, it happened, but let's acknowledge that it's very problematic looking back at it. Don't keep it up on the pedestal.
No, definitely. Yeah, it is. It's such a testament to how good really good comedies are when they age well.
Yes.
Because comedy is the first thing to age poorly.
Yep. If it's
Agreed.
all pop culture reference and whatnot, then it's not going to stand the test of time.
No.
Unless you're of that age and like
Sure.
you grow with it or whatnot. But like, we watched Groundhog Day fairly recently.
Yes.
And those jokes will never get old.
Yeah.
Like
Groundhog Day is amazing.
Yeah.
A movie. Oh, go ahead.
Nope. Go ahead.
A movie that I thought was not going to age well when I did Clark's 100 AFI movies was Tootsie.
Mm-hmm.
And Tootsie ages beautifully about male-female traits. Even with the slightly problematic Dustin Hoffman, the main theme of that movie is he actually says to Jessica Lange, "I was a better man with you being a woman than I ever was with a woman being a man."
Yeah.
And watching it through the post-Me Too filter, the movie actually works, and it's still uproariously funny.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I did Some Like It Hot on Clark's podcast, and we found a lot of the same things that, like, it actually aged really well, because even stuff with, like, the relationship with Osgood and Osgood finding out that it's actually a man who he's been dating, not a woman. There's no, like, I'm grossed out by this.
No.
Like, yeah.
It's the most famous line. Like,
yeah, exactly.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I love Some Like It Hot. As a film lover, I love that movie. But to see that movie year after year ranked as #1 on AFI's best comedies list, get fucked, AFI.
You're like, AFI, you need to branch out a little.
Honestly.
Okay. All right. What are you going to put ahead of it?
Yeah.
Airplane.
What?
Airplane.
Oh, I knew you were going to say that. I knew it.
You have heard my argument for Airplane, and it is a sound argument.
Yeah.
In the sitcom world, when you're watching an episode of Friends, Cheers, whatever, the network goal is 3 jokes per page.
Right.
And on average, one of those 3 jokes will actually be funny.
Mm-hmm.
So you're looking at 28 laughs per episode, if you're lucky. In the movie Airplane, there are 3 to 5 jokes per minute in that movie, and every single one works. There is no other movie that can match pound for pound, joke for joke. Everything lands hysterically. Nobody beats Airplane.
What about Clue?
Mic drop.
Oh, I love Clue.
Clue's up there.
Mark, I thought you said Clute.
Oh,
Be like, not a comedy.
No,
yeah,
Clue?
Clue's great.
It's Jane Fonda, but no.
Yes.
Clue.
Clue is good, but it's not pound for pound. Every joke lands. Every joke works. That many jokes per page. And need I remind you, Clue was a critical and financial failure when it came out.
But it's become a real cult classic, and
It's become a cult classic, but Airplane was a success from start
all
to
around.
finish because, as I like to say, 50 million Frenchmen can't be wrong.
When I was on, Mark Riley has his channel now, and he's doing a lot of shows. So I was his guest on Riley Roundtable this week, and we talked about Soap Dish.
Oh, Soap Dish is great.
Is another one that was a failure at the time, but is joke for joke.
Oh,
like
it's
we're
so
talking about,
funny.
it's so layered.
I reference Soap Dish all the time. I always make references to I'm going to be Sally Field at the mall.
Me too.
I say that at least once a month. So.
Oh my God, me too. Do you ever say give them my best in Paramus? Yeah.
I always reference doing a Death of a Salesman at dinner theater.
All the time. Every time I've ever worked in anything remotely theater, I always think of Jeffrey Anderson as Willy Loman.
Yep.
Yes. Oh, waiter! What did he say? Providence, Rhode Island. You're doing so well up there.
I love the practical effect. I love the money they spent on the wave outside the set.
Mhm.
Yes.
It's just like a giant paper towel roll with water glued to it.
Oh,
So funny.
And what's her name? From Raging Bull.
Kathy Moriarty.
Kathy Moriarty.
Moriarty. Once again, an Oscar-worthy performance in that movie.
Oh,
And then the reveal at the end, which I won't say, just in case people
And
haven't.
the reveal at the end is funny, but it's not played for jokes. It makes perfect sense.
Yes, when you think
so
about
far
it.
ahead of its time.
Mhm.
and Robert Downey Jr. in that movie, that may be one of his funniest performances ever.
Yeah,
Ever.
because I think he was on the nose candy making that.
Oh, he was.
Oh, he for sure
definitely
was.
on the
Well,
nose.
he's vibrating like a hummingbird in that movie.
Yes,
But he's still
his
great.
his reaction to the reveal is one of my all-time favorites.
Yep.
And if we're
All
talking
time.
80s, we're talking 80s comedies, I would argue that of all the things Blake Edwards did, his best film is Victor Victoria. And I've revisited that recently.
It's so good.
And that film
Yeah.
is
So good.
is as close to perfect as a film gets.
Do you know they did a revival of Victor Victoria on Broadway with Julie Andrews in the 90s that I saw?
Yeah, the
yeah.
Broadway music is not very good. Yeah.
Well, sure, but
But the fact that she did it is pretty
she
crazy.
did
That
it.
is
and
She
that was
was
after
great.
her voice problems too.
No,
Oh,
she sounded great.
Yeah.
She sounded
always
great.
Fantastic.
Yeah, I saw a lot of Broadway shows in my youth, and this is going to sound, I'm not going to say it. I won't name the person, but I saw Chicago with the original Broadway cast, and one of the members of the cast should not have been up there. That's all I'll say.
Fair.
Male or female?
Let the nation begin.
I'll tell you privately later, Mark. I don't want to disparage any of my fellow thespians,
No,
but other than that, that's maybe the only time.
I'm curious. I think I know who you're talking about.
Yeah, that's the only time as a theater goer I ever saw someone up there and went, "What is going on?" I've seen a lot of theater, and this is not good. There's just this one person.
Yeah.
Oh, Manny Gonzalez said, "What about Bob?"
Oh, that is a great movie.
Our chat is great. A lot of people are talking about a lot.
No,
of
I wish I could see the chat.
Yeah.
Just pull
What
up the
About
YouTube.
Bob
The
is fun
YouTube.
Oh,
because
all right. Well, careful. I'll have to.
the best thing about What About Bob is watching it, knowing how much Bill Murray hated
hated each other.
Yes.
It makes that movie a layer of reality that is kind of awesome.
Yeah. Haskell 420 brought up Weird Science while we're on the topic of young Robert Downey Jr.
There's some stuff in that that's problematic.
That's another one.
There's
that's
definitely
new.
some stuff in that that's problematic. It's not
Making a
Revenge of the
sexual
Nerds level, but yeah.
We got some Beverly Hills Cops fans in the chat as well. Several people talking about that. Oh,
My
and La
favorite
Cage
was
aux Folles,
Reitman.
so Birdcage
Yeah,
is getting
Birdcage.
some love.
Yeah.
The Reitman Bill Murray movies, I think my favorite is Stripes. That's a great comedy.
It really
Stripes is really
is.
good.
I think that's a good one.
Oh, good.
Somebody wants to know about Airplane 2. I don't know
Uh-oh.
anything about it.
Sam?
Garbage, no good, very, very bad attempt. Never should have happened.
Ben Snyder says Monty Python and the Holy Grail makes me laugh every single time. Same.
Oh, so is the meaning.
yes.
The meaning of life is great too.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
that was
and-
their last film.
Yeah, meaning of life. It's true.
We watched
Somebody
several-
just referenced Delirious with John Candy. That is also a childhood favorite of mine, but I don't know that it holds up. A lot of the jokes in there are pretty dated. But I did get to work with Robert Wagner once, and I asked him if he still hated Cleveland, and he looked at me like I had a second head growing out of my shoulder. He had no idea what I was referencing. No idea.
Then he threw you off the boat.
Then he threw me off the boat, and him and Christopher Walken covered it up.
Chase Geyser in the chat asks, what are your favorite movie soundtracks?
Love this question.
Soundtracks or scores? Those are different.
Oh,
soundtracks
that's right.
is what they asked.
Oh, I see. I'm a score girl. You guys go at it.
Okay, but like
soundtrack.
soundtracks, Batman Forever. Great
Oh,
soundtrack.
Totally on board. Seal, you two, Smashing
great.
Pumpkins. I'm so on board for that.
Yeah, I'll
Yes.
take
Okay.
the
All right.
Prince Batman album.
That the Prince Batman.
Oh yeah.
The first one. Great soundtracks. Oy.
Mm-hmm.
Tarantino has a lot of good ones.
The Big Chill. The
Big Chill.
Oh.
Ridgemont High.
Yep. Forrest Gump.
Yeah, there's a good soundtrack for Forrest Gump.
Yeah, except it's Forrest Gump.
Oh boy.
Okay. Whatever you think of the movie aside, it's a good soundtrack.
Well.
I remember really liking the soundtrack to I Am Sam. That had some good stuff on it.
Oh, that's all Beatles covers.
Yeah, it's all
right?
Beatles covers.
Yeah.
Yeah, I dug that.
I liked the Matrix soundtrack.
Oh yeah.
I know I owned that and listened to that a lot.
Yeah.
Kill Bill.
Yeah, Kill Bill has a good soundtrack.
Oh, any Tarantino.
I was gonna say
soundtrack.
Tarantino. You know, we just watched Reservoir Dogs and like that.
Nice.
All the music in that movie. So
Yeah.
I listened to the
Frank, good call. Dazed and
Frank
Confused.
Janish, yeah. Oh yeah,
Yep.
Dazed and Confused has a great soundtrack.
Yeah, nicely done.
I used to listen to the Garden State soundtrack a lot when I was like a
Me
freshman
too.
in college.
Me too.
I'm not saying it's good. I'm just saying I listened to it a lot.
Oh, you got to listen to this. It'll change your life. All right. Settle down.
A lot of feelings.
Settle down.
Well, we could go into musicals, and I could say that the Moulin Rouge soundtrack got a whole lot of play.
Yeah. Oh yeah, so much.
Yep.
Mm-hmm.
Can we do
scores? Go ahead, Sam, and then we'll answer this question.
The Wizard of Oz soundtrack. Dark Side of the Moon.
Did that in college too.
Yep.
While on edibles. Let's see. Preston Bryant wants to know the difference between a soundtrack and a score.
Rachel, take this one.
Yeah.
Rachel.
Okay, yeah. On a soundtrack, it's songs by bands or singers, anybody that did a song for a movie, so that appears in the movie or the end credits or is inspired by sometimes. And then a score is the musical composition of the background music playing.
Exactly.
So like James Horner, Howard Shore, John Williams, they are musical composers that do the scores, and then all your favorite bands and singers have done, multiple songs for soundtracks.
That's a very good explanation. Ben Snyder said, and I'm reading this because I feel this comment, for people of a very specific age, Space Jam soundtrack is iconic.
Oh. I'm forever scarred. No.
Doesn't that have that R. Kelly song?
That's
sure does.
my problem with it. Unfortunately, having worked on Surviving R. Kelly, the documentary series that exposed him, is that was a very big part of our, dissection of his life and experiences and talking about the women that he abused. And we did a whole section on I Believe I Can Fly. So that song and soundtrack are kind of ruined for me.
Sure, no, that makes a lot of sense. Did you ever watch Trapped in the Closet, speaking of R. Kelly?
Oh my God. That was pre-Kanye West crazy.
Yeah, it was.
Oh boy.
Rachel and I talked about Trapped in the Closet literally last night.
Oh my God. So
Literally.
I don't want to give attention to an awful human being like R. Kelly. However, I remember my first exposure to that was one of my friends in college. He had somehow found out about it, and he had parts 1 through 9 or something on a DVD compilation. And we had a Friendsgiving with all the theater kids before we went home for Thanksgiving break. And that was how we spent our Friendsgiving, was watching Trapped in the Closet.
If you want to watch a train wreck, this is why you watch something of that ilk.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a bad time.
A lot of good soundtracks in the chat.
Yeah.
Top Gun, good pick.
Very good.
Good pick. And Hans Zimmer, he's arguably the king of scores. I think some people would argue John Williams has that title, but Zimmer's up there. Horner.
I would say Williams is the king of scores. Zimmer is the prince of scores.
The prince.
Okay.
The crown prince.
It still gives lots of kudos
to Hans Zimmer for sure. Yeah.
He did Gladiator, which is one of my all-time favorite scores. So
it is a very good score.
One of my favorite scores is Bram Stoker's Dracula.
Yes.
And the Rocketeer is a great score.
Oh, that's Silvestri, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, Alan Silvestri did Rocketeer for sure.
Of course.
You know what I remember about the Rocketeer when that movie was in theaters. One of the lines that they used in the ad campaigns, the TV spot ad campaigns, where they would quote, people who had reviewed it for their paper. I believe the review said something like, "It's the kind of movie making magic we don't see anymore."
Yeah.
Was about the Rocketeer, and then that movie came out the same time as Problem Child 2.
Yep.
Oh no.
And I saw both movies the same day with my brother.
Aw.
We movie hopped. We saw Rocketeer and then Problem Child 2. And we loved the Rocketeer. And then we came out of Problem Child 2, and I will never forget, I literally turned to my older brother, after we walked out of Problem Child 2 and went, "Now that's the kind of movie magic we don't see anymore."
Oh boy.
All righty.
Which one stands up today?
Oh,
Yeah, Rocketeer or
Rocketeer.
Problem Child too.
I guess the Rocketeer?
You're outnumbered here. It's the Rocketeer.
It's definitely the Rocketeer.
Oh,
And yes,
well, there's no question that Problem Child 2 doesn't hold up.
but
I
the
just
first
don't know that the
Problem Child-
Rocketeer holds up.
The Rocketeer
Oh,
does
I
hold
think
up.
it does. It
Does
does
it?
hold up.
It's
Oh,
amazing.
yeah. It's
Okay.
amazing. Yeah.
All right,
Uh,
I'll rewatch it. I'll rewatch it.
And Chase Geyer says Timothy Dalton is great in The Rocketeer, and agree.
Terry O'Quinn
So
is in
good.
the Rocketeer.
Yeah,
I
as the
love
Margot
that
Margot
one.
Martin. bad guy.
Martindale.
Yes. Oh my God, that's
Yeah.
right. Mhm.
And Alan Arkin should have been nominated for an Oscar for that role.
Mm-hmm. It's a good one,
It's-
guys. If you haven't seen
Um,
Rocketeer, highly recommend.
Yeah.
Very
So good. Really great shout outs for soundtracks. Frank Janis says Braveheart. Anthony Gonzalez says Last of the Mohicans.
Yeah.
Wiley Todd says Road to Perdition. Like all of these are classics.
And Justin Toner shouts out the Vangelis score for Blade Runner.
Vangelis, Chariots of Fire.
So
Thank you very
good.
much.
What about
1492.
The Exorcist Tubular Bells?
Oh, yes. So can I tell you, my dad, when we were growing up, he listened to a lot of Mike Oldfield's albums. So to me, Tubular Bells was just Tubular Bells. I had I have no
You didn't
connection
realize
with
it
The
was
Exorcist
The
when I hear
Exorcist.
Tubular Bells.
That's amazing.
Yeah. If you've never listened to like the full composition of Tubular Bells, highly recommend seeking it out. There's a lot that
And
happens.
Classic horror, John Carpenter's Halloween score is
It's
fantastic.
great. It's
Yeah.
great.
And
It's great.
the best thing about the most recent Halloween movie was the score, the revisiting of the score he did with his son.
Yeah.
The score for Halloween, the remake, this new one, was easily the best thing about it.
Nice.
Oh, some Love for Glory. Glory's an amazing film.
Oh.
It should have won Best Picture that year.
Yeah, and that music is beautiful. Horner.
Yep.
Yeah.
And
Oh, the score for Crouching Tiger, Hidden Dragon is great too.
No, it's
Tan
really-
Done. Yeah.
That's
No, that's
beautiful.
that's gorgeous. Yeah.
and also commentating nerd showing some love for the greatest film event of last holiday season, Cats. Yep. If you guys haven't seen Cats yet, it's available on digital.
If you haven't seen Cats, it's the film version of what the coronavirus must feel like.
Oh, that's a selling point.
Yeah.
I refuse to see Cats until they release the butthole version.
Oh, they kind of did metaphorically.
Metaphorically. Oh my goodness.
That
Yeah.
sounds like a great band name, the Metaphorical Buttholes.
Metaphorical buttholes.
That's a faction for Schmoedown, I
There you
think.
go. The metaphorical
Oh.
buttholes.
Done and
Yeah.
done.
And on that note, we've been hanging out with y'all for like an hour and a half here, so we're probably going to start to wrap things up. So thank you everybody for tuning in and watching. Sam's out of wine, so
Yeah.
And this requires
I think
immediate
that
remedy.
needs to be remedied immediately. So yes, Preston Bryant Cats was a train wreck, and that's why you should watch it. Yeah, but anyway, so thank you again, chat, for joining us. Thank you to Samm Levine for being our special guest.
Oh,
this
my
week.
pleasure. Please, the honor is all mine. All hail the Fyffe Club.
I am sure that we will see your lovely face again. Rachel will see it as soon as she hangs up, because then you guys can be in the same
Yeah, she's
part of the house.
quarantined with me. She can't go anywhere.
Yeah, totally. So we are going to be making this a regular thing. So Sundays, 6:30 p.m. Pacific time till about 8 p.m. we'll be hanging out, chatting with you. So if throughout the week you think of things that you want to ask us, feel free to, tweet stuff at us throughout the week so we can kind of gather up questions there. I know there were certain questions in the chat we didn't get to tonight. Do send them to us on Twitter though, because it'll be easier for us to keep track of them that way. Also, if any of you are in the Schmoedown Patreon Discord or my Twitch Discord, you can, send messages to me there if you think of things that you want to ask, because we're happy to answer them.
And if this, we can work this out, you and me, Emma. But next week, we can pick a fan chat person, and I'll give them a signed copy of the graphic novel Torso.
Yes, that's a great idea.
That'd be awesome.
Just a thank you for you guys for being here with us. And we'll defer to Emma whether it's what we think is the most interesting question or something like that.
Yeah.
So send your questions before next Sunday so we can pick who that is, and I'll sign a copy to you, personalize it, and mail it out to you.
Awesome. So tweet us your questions throughout the week. You know where to find us. And Sam, do you have something happening in your world right now that you want to share?
I do. Yeah, no. So this is not just for fun.
Yeah.
So the show that I've been working on with the great Clark Wolf now and a bunch of other very awesome, super fun nerds called DC Daily on the DC Universe streaming platform, we are now doing an at-home edition.
Nice.
So that we can keep bringing great DC content to the wonderful DC Universe subscribers and non-subscribers, as we are in front of the paywall. So please check out DC Daily 5 days a week starting tomorrow with our great at-home editions. So I'm very happy that we're doing that.
And you should subscribe to DC Universe, the app, because not only do you have Sam and all our friends doing it, you have Doom Patrol, you have Swamp Thing, you have the so much better than it has any right to be Harley Quinn.
The animated Harley Quinn
the animated
is amazing.
And
so good.
And the comic books I've written for DC are there. You can read my entire run of Manhunter on your big screen TV before the new one comes out. So
yes. So don't take our word for it. If you are even on the fence about it, you can do a 7-day, 1 week for free subscription trial to DC Universe, so definitely check it out.
There's definitely enough content to make it worth $7 or $8 a month, and there's more coming. So,
100%.
And Rachel, I know you've got a work from home that you're doing a home project.
Yeah, I'm really excited. I got hired to be an editor on a Facebook show called 9 Months with Courtney Cox. It tracks a lot of families and people who are going through the pregnancy process. It's a real raw, emotional, interesting look at what that means. And it's great because we can still be in production because everything is self-taped. All of the couples and people that are going through this record themselves. They send us the footage and we present the episodes to you guys on Facebook. Season 2 will be starting in about a month. And I'm editing on that from my at-home system. So I'm very grateful to them for the job, but also for this show. I think it's really interesting. So definitely season 1 is up on Facebook now, and season 2 is coming soon.
And Mark, I know you have some secret stuff that you can't talk about.
Yes, but I can yes, potentially cool stuff. But I'm also right now working on this right here is the first issue of Manhunters, the miniseries, bringing back the character I co-created. We're still doing comics for DC, and then as these three know, there's something that hopefully I'll be able to announce in the next month or so.
We're under a friend DA right now.
Yeah, sorry.
I love that friend DA. That's awesome.
Friend DA, yeah. A lot of my friends are voice actors, so I'm very familiar with those.
That's an amazing term. I'm going to use that.
Yeah. And then obviously we'll be back again next week right here on my YouTube channel during the week. However, I am streaming over on my Twitch channel. It's twitch.tv/Emma Fyffe. I just made Twitch affiliate, so if you want to go over there and subscribe to my channel, that helps me out a lot. And even if you can't subscribe, just give me a follow. Appreciate it.
This wouldn't exist without Emma. So
yeah,
we couldn't do this
Yeah.
without him.
For real.
Thanks, y'all.
You are
Producer, director, technician.
Yes. Yes, as I say, I learned a lot about at-home broadcasting in a very short amount of time. So, if you guys want to hang out and watch something during the week, I'll be streaming Animal Crossing tomorrow at noon.
Of course you will.
I'm going to open up my island and we're going to do a treasure hunt. So, come hang out with us. It'll be a lot of fun. So again, thank you so much to everyone for being here on camera, off camera, etc., etc. You guys are all great. And we will see you all again next week. So don't forget to send us your tweets
everybody.
and stay
Stay
safe
safe.
out there. Bye.